So let's talk about verbal cueing and manual adjustments. So it's my opinion that if you listen to me in the videos, if you listen to me and the way I verbally cue every single posture in and out of, let's say, sun salutations, or in and out of the seated flow in lazy monkey, if you memorize the verbal cues that I use, then that is going to be enough for you. You really don't have to say any more than the things that I say when I'm directing you through the class. So keep everything very, very simple. Keep everything very to the point. When you're guiding someone verbally, let's talk about verbal cueing first. When you're guiding someone, it's very important to tell them to look down and look at their hands, or look down, look at your feet, look in the mirror. If you're in a studio that has mirrors, look in the mirror and make sure that you're standing up tall, that your shoulders are pressed down, and that they're not up into your ears. Or put your hands on your belly, close your eyes and take a deep breath, and tell me whether or not you actually can feel that you're taking a deep breath and there's no restrictions in the abdomen. There's no restrictions, okay? Direct people to check in on their own body. Most people are not body aware. They're not aware of what's going on in their own body. They're very disconnected from their own body. So the lazy monkey yoga style seeks to help people come home to their body, come home to themselves, and be able to actually feel what is going on internally, okay? And so when you're a yoga instructor and you're looking at a person practicing yoga, you do not know what that person is experiencing. You do not understand what they're feeling. You don't know if they're in pain. You don't know if they're struggling emotionally, mentally, physically. You don't know you don't know what's going on in a person unless you ask. Unless you ask the person, so what is it that you're feeling when you're practicing this particular movement? Where do you feel tight? Where do you feel restricted? And then they might say, oh, well, I feel like I can't spread my legs wide enough. And then you can say, okay, well, are you feeling muscular tension? Or are you feeling like they just won't open any farther? Have you reached your maximum range of motion? And they're either going to say, oh, well, I feel tight, like I feel a burning, stinging sensation. Well, then that means that they're having that means that they are experiencing muscular tension, and they have to continue to stretch in order for that to go away. Or they have reached their full range of motion, as you learned all of these things in Paul Greeley's DVDs about yoga anatomy. And that means you have to tell them, well, you know what? This is probably the best it's going to get for you, because that's probably where your range of motion ends, and that's okay because it's your body and we're all shaped differently. Everyone's joint is different, okay? Everyone has different bone structure as far as the joint is concerned, and some of us are extremely hyper mobile and some of us just are not. So it's very important that you honor the feelings of the people that you're helping to guide, so that so you can understand where they're coming from when they're practicing, and verbally cueing them is very important, because now getting to manual adjustments, we try to not touch. This is a hands-off system of practice, okay? Like qigong, like Tai Chi, like a lot of karate and judo and other techniques that require someone to move freely. We don't put our hands on people in this particular practice, because we need to be able to verbally guide them and show them in our body how the moves are performed. So they are going to look at you, and they're going to follow you, and they're going to follow your movements. And then after they have taken your class a couple of times and they're familiar with the movement, then they're going to be more comfortable doing the movement without like being hyper focused on you. They're going to know the sequencing. The sequencing is always the same. That's what's beautiful about the Lazy Monkey Yoga style. The Lazy Monkey Yoga style is always the same. It always starts and finishes the exact same way. There's no surprises. If you've taken one Lazy Monkey Yoga class, you've taken every Lazy Monkey Yoga class. So people are able to learn the class, and then in understanding the movement and the patterns of the movement, then they're able to start to get into it, and then they're able to start to feel the body. Because if you're concentrating on what you're supposed to be doing, it's very difficult to concentrate on what you're supposed to be doing and feel your body. So the class is always the same. So they learn what they're supposed to do, you tell them what they're supposed to be feeling, and then you allow them to find their way through that on their own without touching them. Now, one of the reasons why, I'm going to be very honest with you, one of the reasons why I became such an expert and master teacher in verbally cueing people and guiding people without touching them is because I'm a man. And as you know, 90% of the people that practice yoga are women. So from a liability point of view, teaching yoga, I have always had a hands-off approach to guiding people through yoga practice because of liability or because of someone saying that I touched them inappropriately. Now, when I was teaching pole, because I used to be a pole dancer and I used to do aerials, when you're teaching somebody how to be on an apparatus, it's very, very different. Like you are actually going to get in there and you're going to touch them. You're even going to make sure that they don't fall by cradling them in some positions, okay? But this is not climbing a pole or doing tricks off of a hoop or doing tumbles out of a fabric and silks, aerial silks. This is a basic physical discipline that anyone can learn. They can watch, they can listen, and they can practice. Watch, listen, and then try. And so there really should be no reason ever for you to have to put hands on anyone unless you are spotting someone in a movement that's high risk, such as a headstand or a handstand. Even hand balances that are very, very close to the ground, people can figure out how to get in and out of a crow by themselves. You don't have to hold them for them to figure out how to maneuver their body in order to get into particular hand balances. And here's the other beautiful thing. If someone is not strong enough to do a hand balance, they are not strong enough to do a handstand. If they can't support their body weight on their hands very, very close to the ground, like in crow, they are not strong enough to try to go fully upside down into a full inversion, into a full handstand. You see? So you would never be trying to get someone who is incapable of doing a handstand into a handstand because you would already know what the level of the student is by observing them in the level of progression that the Lazy Monkey Yoga class goes through. Because the Lazy Monkey Yoga class and all the 1, 2, and 3, I know you haven't got to the calisthenics yet, but at least as far as a level 1 class and a level 2 class, which is a Lazy Monkey Yoga flow, you can just watch someone from the very beginning, from the jump, and you can see the gradual progression of the movement, and you can see whether or not people are able to keep up or not able to keep up, whether or not they have the stamina to be able to perform the class without them getting worn out, or whether or not they're experiencing some kind of discomfort or pain, or you're moving at a pace that's too fast for them, or maybe they need individualized care, special care. So as far as, I'm going to recommend to you that you become a master at verbally cueing these movements. And how do you become a master at verbally cueing these movements? You become very descriptive. You're going to feel like you're talking too much because of how descriptive you're being in teaching. So like, I'm going to sit up nice and tall. I'm going to relax my head, neck, and shoulders. Relax your shoulders. Good. Now I want you to drop your right ear to your right shoulder, and then your chin to your chest, and then your left ear to your left shoulder, and your head all the way back, and I want you to continue to do that and circle your head. Hold on. So I don't know if my sound cut out or not, but telling people to drop their ear to their shoulder, chin to chest, ear to shoulder, and drop the head back. That is guiding someone through movements. Every single movement is its own movement. Looking up to the ceiling is its own movement. Tucking the chin to the chest is its own movement. Extending your right arm to one side is a movement. Reaching both arms up and reaching to the sky is a movement. And those are all things that you verbally cue. You verbally cue every physical movement. And you just do that in the plainest and simplest language possible. People will be able to understand that. People will be able to follow. So become a master at verbally cueing the sequences. And the chances of you ever having to actually touch someone to manually adjust them, you'll never probably have to do that. Unless you're teaching now a level 3 lazy monkey yoga class where you're getting into the handstands and headstands and things where people need to be spotted so they don't hurt themselves. But you also never have to teach that stuff if you don't want to. You never have to teach someone how to do a handstand. You can tell people, I don't do handstands. I don't teach people to do handstands because I don't try to teach people to do the things that I can't. I teach people to do the things I can do. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing shameful about being a yoga instructor that refuses to teach hand balancing and handstands because it's not for you. Everyone's different. Everyone's different, okay? Even teachers have to be honored for what they're willing to teach and not teach. And here's the other thing about manual adjustments. I have been in classrooms where I saw yoga teachers go up and grab a hold of students' bodies and try to force them to twist or bend or fold, putting their entire body weight on top of someone, trying to get their face between their knees in a forward fold. Or you see pictures of like Bikram, that motherfucker, standing on top of people, jumping up and down on them when they're in these massive backbending postures on their organs and things. That's crazy. That's crazy town. That's crazy town. So for liability purposes, it's also important that you not touch people and try to force them into positions that they can't get into. That's why it's more efficient for people to actually try to get there on their own. Try to teach people movement and the quality of the movement, and then allow that person to evolve. That person will evolve. 6 months into taking your classes, they will have evolved. Their body will have changed. Their muscle tone will have changed. Their flexibility will have changed. Their inner body awareness, their body awareness about what's going on around them and what's going on internally inside of them will change. Even health situations will change. If they have a bad digestive system, their digestive system might improve. If they have chronic back pain, their back pain might improve. If they used to suffer from headaches all the time, and now they are actually stretching and opening up all of the energy channels, and doing techniques that are going to decompress the spine and the nerves, they might not have headaches anymore. So there's lots of good things that can happen. But the worst thing that can happen is you, as a yoga instructor, thinking that you can force somebody into a pose that they can't do. And yoga instructors that are stupid have done that. They've hurt people. They've hurt people by trying to force them to do poses that they thought they could do. So I'm going to recommend that we really practice verbal cueing a lot. And don't ever feel when you're teaching a lazy monkey yoga class that you're talking too much. Don't, because people are listening to you. They want to hear what you have to say. They paid to take your class because they are listening to you guide them. So guide them every step of the way. And you can always be like, I feel like I'm talking too much. Am I talking too much? And people will be like, oh, no, you're not talking too much, because they're listening to you and because you are guiding them, okay? So guide them and be friendly while you do it. Make jokes, have fun, Yoga should be enjoyable. I've never understood people that walk into a yoga class and they stand at the top of the mat and they put their hands together like this and their brows are furrowed, okay? And they're coming to like the class and being militant. And they're not, and they're trying to do this pose and do that pose, and I'm going to hit my warrior 1 and my warrior 2, and I'm going to hit that half moon pose, and it's vicious almost the way they attack their body. It's like going to CrossFit, you know, and we're not CrossFit, and we are definitely not most forms of Hatha yoga. This is not about forcing your body to do things that it's not going to do naturally. And there you go. So we will be talking about manual adjustments, or we'll be talking about spotting people, okay? Not manual adjustments by trying to move people's body parts into places that they don't belong, but we'll talk about spotting people in and out of headstands and handstands and things like that when we get to the next level. So that's not something you have to worry about right now. You know, another thing I learned is pointing and using your hand and your finger to point to the place in which you want a student to go is always helpful. I can't do that right now because I kind of like need to be on Zoom with you guys so that you can see me. I can move the camera so you can see what I'm talking about, but you can always use your finger as a point. Like if someone's foot is not placed in the right place, you can always walk over if that person is not getting the verbal cue. Like let's say you say something once, you say something twice, and people still aren't getting it. You can go over and use your finger and point and say, Johnny, put your foot here. Put your arm here. Keep your chin up. You can use your finger as a pointer to show and describe what it is that you want people to do. But besides that, you don't have to do anything more than that in order to achieve the lazy monkey yoga style.